Alan Wright rubbed his tired eyes and reached for his coffee mug. The night shift at NASA's Deep Space Communication Array in Nevada was usually quiet. Most nights he just listened to the endless static from distant stars. Tonight was different. The former Marine colonel turned NASA security chief nearly spilled his coffee when the unmistakable pattern of an artificial signal cut through the white noise. He pressed the emergency alert button, summoning the on-duty scientists. Within minutes, the room filled with bleary-eyed specialists trying to make sense of the transmission. The message repeated every 90 seconds. After 3 hours of frantic work, Dr. Melissa Johnson broke the alien code. Her face went pale as she translated the simple message, "Surrender or be destroyed." No one slept that night. By morning, the president had been briefed, and within 48 hours, the United Nations convened an emergency session. The signal originated from the edge of our solar system. The aliens called themselves the Krelder Empire. They had conquered over 300 civilizations across the Milky Way, assimilating their technologies and resources. Earth was simply next on their list. Lisa Baker watched the UN broadcast from her office in Washington. As director of the newly formed United Earth Defense Initiative, she knew that humanity had precious little time to prepare. She immediately called an emergency meeting of her council, bringing together military leaders, scientists, and diplomats from around the world. Among them was Dr. Paul Garcia, whose revolutionary work on particle physics had led to breakthroughs in weapons. Technology that even he hadn't anticipated would be useful so soon. "We have perhaps 3 weeks before their main fleet arrives," Lisa told the assembled group. "Their scout ships have already entered the solar system." General Frank Morrison, representing the Joint Chiefs of Staff, spoke up. "What military capabilities are we looking at?" Dr. Garcia projected a hologram based on the data collected from observing the scout ships. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Energy shields, faster than light travel, weapons that could reduce our cities to ash in seconds." The room fell silent until Admiral Grace Howard spoke. "Then we don't fight conventionally. We've got 2 experimental vessels equipped with the new fusion drives. They're not fancy, but they're fast and armed with tactical nukes." Lisa nodded. "Deploy them immediately. We need to know what we're up against." The U.E.'s Defiant and U.E.'s Intrepid departed Earth orbit within 12 hours. Commander Susan Miller led the Defiant, while the Intrepid was under Captain Joe Bennett. Their mission was simple: observe and report back. Engaging the enemy was strictly forbidden. 7 days later, the small Earth fleet encountered 3 Krelder scout ships near Jupiter's orbit. The alien vessels were sleek, almost organic in design, and moved with impossible grace through the void. Susan watched through the view screen as the aliens scanned her ship. "They're hailing us," reported Communications Officer Ryan Lewis. The alien that appeared on screen was vaguely humanoid, but with gray skin, large black eyes, and no visible mouth. It spoke through some kind of translator. "Primitive vessels, you will power down and prepare to be boarded. Resistance is futile and illogical." Susan cut the transmission and turned to her tactical officer. "What are our options?" "Lieutenant." Olivia Parker studied her console. "Their shields appear to be calibrated for high-energy weapons. Our nuclear missiles are technically low-tech by comparison. There might be a weakness there." Susan made a decision that would change the course of the war. Instead of retreating as her orders dictated, she opened a channel to the Intrepid. "Joe, on my mark, full thrust toward the lead ship. Fire all nuclear ordnance at point-blank range." Captain Bennett's face showed shock. "That's suicide, Susan." "Maybe, but if we run now, Earth has no data on their combat capabilities. This way, at least one of us might make it back with useful intelligence." She took a deep breath. "Intrepid will target the lead ship with me. If either of us breaks through, head for the third vessel. Against all military logic, the two Earthships charged directly at the enemy. The Krelder, clearly surprised by this irrational action, took precious seconds to respond. Those seconds were enough. The Defiant and Intrepid launched their nuclear payloads at near point-blank range. The primitive nuclear warheads detonated against the alien shields in ways their defensive systems couldn't properly account for. The lead Kreldor ship's shields collapsed under the multiple nuclear detonations. The Defiant, severely damaged, but still functional, pushed through the debris field. The Intrepid was not so fortunate. A retaliatory strike from the second alien vessel vaporized the Earth. Ship instantly. Susan felt the deck shudder beneath her feet as alarms blared throughout the Defiant. Damage report. Hull breaches on decks 3 through 5. Life support at 60%. Weapons offline, reported the tactical officer, but the enemy vessel is completely destroyed. Susan gripped her chair as the ship shook again. What? About the other scouts? Through the crackling viewscreen, she watched as the remaining Krelder vessels adjusted their tactics, moving with greater caution now. But the momentary confusion had given her an opening. All power to engines. Get us out of here. Best possible speed. The Defiant limped away from the battle, pursued by the two remaining alien ships. Just as they were about to overtake the Earth. Vessel? Susan ordered all remaining power diverted to a single massive electromagnetic pulse. Another primitive technology the Krelder weren't prepared for. The pulse temporarily disrupted the nearest scout ship systems, causing it to veer into the path of its companion. They didn't collide, but the near miss bought the Defiant precious minutes to escape into the shadow of Jupiter's magnetic field. 2 Earth ships against 3 Krelder warships. Only the Defiant returned, badly damaged, but with crucial combat. Data. Susan was rushed from the landing pad to an emergency council meeting, still in her torn and bloodied uniform. Lisa Baker and the assembled leaders listened in stunned silence as Susan described the battle. They're powerful, yes, she concluded, but they're predictable. They expect enemies to behave logically, to retreat when outgunned. They don't anticipate sacrificial charges or primitive nuclear tactics. Dr. Garcia was already analyzing the combat data. Their shields are tuned for energy weapons, the kind their usual opponents use. Our nuclear missiles, while less advanced, operate on principles their defenses aren't optimized against. General Morrison leaned forward. You're saying we have a chance? Susan nodded slowly. I'm saying they've conquered hundreds of worlds, but they've never met humans before. And we don't fight like anyone they've ever encountered. Lisa looked around the room at the grim but determined faces. Then we make that our advantage. We have weeks before their main fleet arrives. I want every nuclear missile we have readied. Every ship that can fly retrofitted with weapons. And I want our best minds working on ways to be as unpredictable as possible. As the meeting adjourned, Dr. Garcia approached Susan. Commander, what you did out there was either the bravest or most foolish thing I've ever heard of. Susan gave a tired smile. Sometimes those are the same thing, Doctor. The galaxy's conquerors just experienced something new today. Defeat. Let's make sure it's not their last. News of the Defiant's victory spread across Earth like wildfire. For the first time since receiving the Kreldor message, people felt a glimmer of hope. The Krelder, confused by this unexpected resistance, sent a diplomatic envoy to understand. These strange humans. Their main fleet was still weeks away, giving Earth precious time to prepare and perhaps negotiate. Ambassador Kevin Young smoothed his tie and entered the United Nations chamber where the alien delegation waited. The 3 Krelder representatives stood motionless, their gray skin almost metallic under the bright lights. Kevin had been briefed extensively, but nothing prepared him for the aliens' cold, emotionless demeanor. we are authorized to speak on behalf of the glorious Krelder Empire, said the tallest alien through a translation device. We have conquered 342 civilizations across this galaxy. All have benefited from our rule. Kevin maintained a neutral expression. And yet one of your scout ships was destroyed by our primitive vessels. The aliens exchanged glances. An anomaly. Your attack pattern was irrational. No species has ever employed such tactics. For the next 6 hours, Kevin listened to their tales of easy conquests across the stars. Their arrogance was evident as they described how each civilization had fallen. Some fought conventionally and lost. Others surrendered immediately. None had shown the desperate creativity of humans. We offer you terms, the alien leader finally said. Surrender 90% of your population for labor and resource extraction. The remaining 10% may continue to exist under Krelder. Protection. Kevin stood up slowly. I will convey your generous offer to our leaders. However, I should warn you that humans have a saying. We would rather die on our feet than live on our knees. The alien tilted its head. This is illogical. Dead beings have no future. Subjugated beings at least continue to exist. That's the difference between us, Kevin said as he left the chamber. You conquer to exist. We exist to be free. While the diplomatic talks continued, Dr. Amy Foster made a crucial discovery in her lab beneath the Rocky Mountains. For days she had studied the recovered technology from the destroyed Krelder scout ship. The alien systems were beyond human understanding in many ways, but they had one unexpected weakness. Their entire system architecture is based on neural networks, Amy explained to Major John Peters, her military liaison. They're incredibly advanced, but they follow logical patterns and cannot handle true randomness. John leaned closer to examine the alien circuit. What does that mean for us? Amy smiled. It means chaos is our weapon. Human computers were built differently from theirs. We can generate true random numbers and unpredictable patterns that their systems simply cannot process. Together they work to develop a virus based on chaos theory algorithms. In simulations, it completely overwhelmed the salvaged Krelder systems. If they could deliver this virus to the main fleet, it could disable entire ships. The diplomatic talks predictably failed. 2 weeks after the first contact, long-range observatories detected the Krelder Armada entering the solar system. Over 100 massive warships approached Earth. Lisa Baker implemented the defense plan. They had frantically assembled. Every nation contributed whatever they could. Conventional militaries prepared ground defenses. Civilian spacecraft were hastily retrofitted with weapons. The few military vessels humanity had managed to build formed the core of Earth's defense fleet. In orbit, General Mary Lopez took command from the U.S. Valiant, Earth's newest and most advanced warship. All ships report ready, her communications officer said. Such as they are. Mary looked at the tactical display showing their ragtag fleet. Cargo ships with missile launchers welded to their hulls. Space stations converted into weapon platforms. Scientific vessels carrying experimental weapons. Against the organized, identical ships of the Krelder, they looked like a collection of toys. Send to all ships, Mary ordered. Remember Commander Miller's lesson. Be unpredictable. Don't follow standard tactics. Each ship captain has full authority to engage as they see fit. The Krelder fleet arrived with mathematical precision, forming a perfect geometric pattern above Earth. Their ships moved in unison, a display of coordination meant to intimidate. A global transmission broadcast their final ultimatum, giving humanity 6 hours to surrender. Mary used those 6 hours to implement Amy Foster's plan. Small, fast shuttles were deployed behind the moon, each carrying a version of the chaos virus on simple electromagnetic transmitters. They would attempt to penetrate the Krelder formation and broadcast the virus directly to the enemy ship systems. When the deadline passed, the Krelder opened fire. Energy beams lanced toward Earth, only to be intercepted by sacrificial defense. Satellites. The battle for Earth had begun. What the Krelder encountered wasn't just resistance, but innovation. Humanity fought with desperation, courage, and unpredictability. Earth ships attacked in seemingly random patterns. Some charged directly at the enemy, like Commander Miller had done. Others used Jupiter's moons as hiding places for ambushes. The Chaos Virus shuttles slipped through the confusion, several reaching their targets before being destroyed. On the Krelder command ship, Admiral Zexkor watched in growing frustration as the battle unfolded in ways their strategic computers couldn't predict. Their superior technology should have guaranteed victory within hours. Instead, the battle stretched into its second day, with multiple Krelder vessels disabled by the mysterious virus or destroyed by kamikaze attacks. "The humans are not fighting according to any known doctrine," reported his second-in-command. "Each of their vessels appears to be following different protocols." Zexkor studied the tactical display. "They have no central command structure. Each ship captain makes independent decisions. Inefficient and chaotic," his officer commented. "And yet effective against us," Zexkor admitted. "Order the fleet to break formation. Each ship commander must adapt independently to counter these humans." But the order came too late. The rigid Krelder command structure, so effective against conventional opponents, proved vulnerable to human unpredictability. As their formation broke apart, Earth ships pressed the advantage, focusing fire on already damaged enemy vessels. Battle for Earth's orbit lasted 3 days. When it ended, 37 Krelder ships had been destroyed or disabled. The rest retreated beyond the moon, regrouping for another assault. It was not a victory, but a reprieve. In her damaged command ship, Mary Lopez received reports from around the world. Cities had been hit, millions were dead or injured, but Earth still stood. And for the first time in their 1,000-year expansion, the Krelder had been forced to retreat. "They'll be back," her tactical officer warned. Mary nodded grimly. "And we'll be ready. Get me Dr. Foster. If her virus worked partially, I want a version that will work completely. And contact all surviving ship captains. I want to know every tactic that worked against them." As the Krelder retreated to regroup, humanity prepared for round 2. The galaxy's conquerors had finally met an enemy unlike any they had faced before. And this was just the beginning. 6 months passed since the Battle of Earth. The Krelder had withdrawn to the outer solar system to regroup and repair their fleet. This precious time allowed humanity to prepare for the next phase of the war. In underground factories across the planet, engineers worked day and night to reverse engineer the captured alien technology. The results were remarkable. Earth now had ships with basic shield technology and faster engines. More importantly, scientists had improved Dr. Foster's Chaos virus, making it more potent against Krelder systems. Captain Daniel Scott stood on the bridge of the UES Freedom, Earth's first true warship, built with reverse-engineered alien tech. His mission was historic: lead the first human expedition beyond the solar system to a Krelder-occupied world. Intelligence gathered from captured Krelder databases identified Proxima Colony as a small mining outpost where enslaved beings from. Several species worked under alien overseers. "All systems ready, Captain," reported his first officer, Linda Martinez. "Jump drive is charged and stable." Daniel took a deep breath. 6 months ago, humans had been confined to their own solar system. Now they were about to travel 4 light years in an instant. "Engage jump drive, Lieutenant." The stars blurred and stretched around them. Daniel felt a moment of disorientation as the ship tore through space. Then Suddenly, they were there. Proxima Centauri shone brightly through the view screen, and orbiting. Its dim red companion star was their target, a rocky world with artificial structures visible even from orbit. No immediate signs of Krelder warships, Linda reported. Just as intelligence suggested, this appears to be a minimal security outpost. Daniel nodded. Begin scan for defense systems and prepare the landing teams. We have one shot at this. The plan was daring but simple. A small strike team would land on the surface to liberate the slave workers and gather intelligence. Meanwhile, the Freedom would remain in orbit, ready to extract them or provide support if needed. Lieutenant Lara Hill led the infiltration team. 12 Marines equipped with reverse-engineered Kreldor weapons and armor. Laura's team landed 3 miles from the main mining facility under cover of darkness. Through night vision goggles, she observed the compound. Tall, insect-like aliens patrolled the perimeter, while hundreds of various species worked in the open-pit mine. Some looked almost human, while others were completely alien in form. Remember the plan? Lavra whispered to her team. We free the slaves, teach them to fight, and escape with as many as possible before the Krelder realize what's happening. They waited until the garb rotation, then used sound suppressors to neutralize the perimeter patrols. Once inside, Lavra approached a group of the most human-like aliens. They were tall with blue-tinted skin and 4-fingered hands, but their expressions of fear and hope were unmistakable. We are humans, Lavra explained through a translation device. We've come to free you and fight the Krelder. Will you help us? The alien who stepped forward called himself Kelinar. The Krelder destroyed our world 5 cycles ago. We will help you destroy them. Within hours, the former slaves had organized into groups, each led by a human marine. Lavra taught them basic fighting techniques and how to use the captured weapons. What surprised her was how quickly they learned and how eager they were to fight. These beings had been conquered but never broken. When dawn broke, the revolution began. The slaves outnumbered their Krelder masters 50-1. What they lacked in training, they made up for in numbers and fury. The mining facility fell within hours. As the last Krelder overseer was captured, Lavra contacted the Freedom. Captain, mission accomplished. We have control of the facility and approximately 500 former slaves willing to join our cause. Daniel's voice came through her communicator. Well done, Lieutenant. But we have a complication. Long-range sensors have detected a Kreldor. Patrol ship approaching. We need to evacuate immediately. Lavra looked at the hundreds of freed slaves. The Freedom could never transport them all. Sir, requesting permission to remain here with a small team. These people know how to contact other mining colonies. We can spread the resistance while you return to Earth with the intelligence we've gathered. There was a long pause before Daniel responded. Permission granted. We'll send supplies and equipment. When the patrol ship arrives, hide in the mines. We'll return with a larger fleet as soon as possible. The Freedom departed with half the Marines and a group of former slaves who could help Earth understand the wider galactic situation. Lara and her remaining team moved everyone into the extensive mine tunnels just as the Krelder patrol arrived. From their hiding place, they watched the patrol ship land and a small contingent of Krelder soldiers emerge. The aliens were clearly confused by the abandoned facility. Lavra smiled grimly. This was just the beginning of their confusion. Over the next weeks, Laura's team taught the former slaves guerrilla warfare tactics. They struck at night, ambushing Krelder patrols and disappearing back into the mines. They sabotaged equipment and planted Dr. Foster's chaos virus in the patrol ship systems. The Krelder, accustomed to direct confrontation, were unprepared for this style of warfare. Back on Earth, Admiral Richard Taylor coordinated the growing fleet of Earth vessels. The U.S. Valiant, commanded by Captain Jane Wilson, had just returned from a reconnaissance mission with extraordinary news. "We've made contact with another species actively fighting the Kreldor," Jane reported to the War Council. "They call themselves the Arthosians. They've been waging a guerrilla war against the Kreldor for nearly 20 years. Lisa Baker leaned forward. "Are they willing to ally with us?" Jane nodded. "More than willing." They were amazed that we'd actually defeated Kreldor ships in direct combat. They've been using hit-and-run tactics exclusively because they couldn't match Kreldor firepower. Richard studied the star charts. "If we combine our strength with theirs and coordinate with Lieutenant Hill's growing resistance movement, we could create a multi-front war the Kreldor aren't prepared to fight." Word of the human resistance spread across conquered worlds. On Proxima Colony, Laura's force had grown to include beings from 6 different species, all sharing tactics and knowledge. Similar uprisings began on 3 other mining worlds. For the first time in centuries, hope spread through the enslaved. Populations of the galaxy the Kreldor Emperor, alarmed by these developments, dispatched Grand Admiral Zexkor with half their imperial fleet to crush the human resistance once and for all. What should have been a simple extermination mission was about to become the largest space battle the galaxy had ever witnessed. As the massive Kreldor armada approached the Tau Ceti system, the combined Earth-Arthosian fleet prepared for battle. Captain Wilson of the Valiant sent a final message to Earth. "They outnumber us 3-1. But they still think like conquerors. We think like liberators. That will make all the difference." The Battle of Tau Ceti marked a turning point in the war. For 3 days, the combined Earth-Arthosian fleet fought against the Kreldor armada. Although outnumbered, the Allies used unpredictable tactics that confused the enemy. Human ships would appear to retreat, then suddenly turn and attack. Arthosian vessels used their superior speed to harass larger Kreldor ships from multiple angles. The chaos virus spread through the enemy fleet, disabling ship after ship. When the battle ended, the Allies had lost nearly half their vessels, but the Kreldor had lost more. Grand Admiral Zexkor ordered a retreat, the second major defeat for an empire that had never known failure before. As the Kreldor fleet limped back toward their core systems, the human-led alliance celebrated their victory. But as the war entered its 3rd year, the tide began to turn. The Kreldor, initially dismissive of humans as primitive beings, now recognized them as their most dangerous opponents ever. They adapted their tactics, studied human psychology, and began using Earth's own strategies against them. Their ships now moved in unpredictable patterns. Their computer systems were modified to resist the chaos virus. Most worrying of all, they began targeting the leadership of the resistance movements on occupied worlds. Lavra Hill, now a commander, barely, escaped when Kreldor forces raided the Proxima Colony resistance headquarters. She lost half her team in the attack. Similar reports came in from other resistance cells across Kreldor territory. The enemy was learning, adapting, becoming more like the humans they fought. On Earth, the mood was grim. The initial euphoria of successful resistance had given way to the harsh reality of a prolonged war against a vastly superior enemy. Resources were stretched thin. The captured alien technology had given humans a fighting chance. But the Kreldor still held an enormous advantage in numbers and industrial capacity. Dr. Nancy White worked in a secret facility beneath the Alaskan tundra. For months, she had been studying Kreldor prisoners, trying to understand their biology and psychology. The freezing environment was necessary for the aliens, who came from a cold world and overheated easily in Earth's climate. "I think I found something," Nancy told Colonel Steve Harris during his weekly inspection. "The Kreldor have a unique neural structure. Their brains are more interconnected than ours, allowing for faster processing and better coordination. Steve leaned over the laboratory table where a holographic model of a Krelder brain rotated slowly. Is that why they're so good at fighting as a unit? Nancy nodded. Exactly. But it's also a weakness. They evolved beyond individual decision-making, relying instead on collective consensus. This makes them powerful, but slow to adapt in real time. Combat situations. Steve considered this information. So their hive mind approach to warfare has a critical weakness. They can't think individually in a crisis. Precisely. When faced with completely unexpected situations, they freeze momentarily, while trying to reach consensus. We've been exploiting this unknowingly with our unpredictable tactics. Together, they developed Project Chaos, a strategy that would exploit this weakness systematically. Rather than trying to match the Krelder strength for strength, Earth forces would focus on creating unpredictable, contradictory situations that would paralyze the enemy command. Structure. The testing ground for this theory was the Rigel system. A small Earth fleet under the command of Admiral Barbara Mitchell deliberately broadcast contradictory information, executed random maneuvers, and violated every established rule of engagement. Some ships appeared to surrender, then attacked. Others sent distress signals while perfectly functional. Communication channels were flooded with meaningless data interspersed with crucial information. The Krelder fleet, unable to predict or understand these actions, fell into disarray. For the first time, humans saw confusion in their enemies' movements. Ships hesitated or moved in conflicting directions. Some fired on empty space, while actual targets went unmolested. Admiral Mitchell reported back to Earth with excitement. Project Chaos works. The Krelder fleet retreated after just 6 hours of combat. We lost 2 ships. They lost 17. The strategy was immediately implemented across all human and allied forces. Resistance cells on occupied worlds created similarly chaotic situations on the ground. Transportation systems would mysteriously fail. Communication networks would broadcast contradictory orders. Food supplies would be contaminated with harmless but disorienting chemicals. The Krelder, a species that had evolved to value order and logic above all else, found themselves fighting an enemy that embraced chaos as a weapon. Their military, the most efficient in the galaxy for 1,000 years, began to show cracks, but the war still hung in the balance. The Krelder Emperor, furious at these continued setbacks, ordered his scientists to accelerate development of their ultimate weapon. If the humans couldn't be conquered through conventional means, they would be eliminated entirely. Lara Hill, now coordinating resistance efforts across 4-star systems, intercepted a transmission between Krelder command ships. The message was partially corrupted, but what she could translate chilled her blood. Planet-killer ... Final testing phase. Targeting Sol system. She immediately sent the information to Earth through the secret quantum communication network developed by Dr. Garcia. Within hours, the War Council convened to assess this new threat. What exactly is a planet killer? Asked Lisa Baker, her face showing the strain of 3 years of war. Admiral Taylor shook his head. We don't know for certain. But intelligence from the Arthosians suggests it's a massive vessel capable of inducing solar flares that would scorch entire worlds. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Even if they evacuated Earth, humanity would lose its homeworld and main industrial base. The war would effectively be over. How long do we have? Lisa finally asked. Based on the intercepted communications, 2 months at most before it's operational. Admiral Taylor replied. Dr. Garcia spoke up. Then we need to strike now, before it's ready. Hit them where they're building this thing. Lisa nodded slowly. Agreed. But this can't be like our other operations. We need complete success. Total destruction of this weapon before it can be used. For the next week, Earth's finest minds worked on a plan. The target was the Krelder shipyard orbiting Epsilon Eridani, where long-range reconnaissance confirmed unusual activity. The mission would require Earth's most advanced ships and bravest personnel. As preparations continued, Dr. White made another breakthrough in understanding Krelder psychology. They see us as unpredictable because they can't understand our individual thinking. But what if we became even more unpredictable? What if we created scenarios so chaotic that their hive mind simply couldn't process them? Colonel Harris considered her words carefully. A mental overload, like a denial-of-service attack on their collective consciousness. Exactly. And I believe I know how to create such a scenario. As Earth prepared for what might be its final offensive against the Kreldor, a message arrived from deep within. Enemy territory. It was from the Proxima Resistance, led by Commander Hill. Multiple slave worlds in open revolt. Krelder forces stretched thin, responding. Timing is perfect for major offensive. For the first time in months, hope returned. The War Council. Perhaps, just perhaps, they could win this war after all. The Kreldor planet killer moved slowly through space, its massive form casting a shadow over nearby planets. It resembled a giant metal octopus, with a central body nearly 20 miles across and 8 extending arms that housed the solar flare. Induction technology. An escort of 1,000 warships surrounded it, the largest concentration of Krelder military might ever assembled. Their destination, the Sol System, homeworld of the troublesome humans who had dared to challenge the Empire. Earth prepared for what might be its final battle. Every available ship was called back to defend the homeworld. The combined human-alien fleet numbered just over 300 vessels, barely a third of the approaching enemy force. Admiral Taylor coordinated the defense from the orbital command station, knowing the odds were heavily against them. All ships report ready for combat, his communications officer announced. The Arthosian reinforcements have arrived as well. Taylor nodded grimly. Can the special operation teams? Standing by on the UES Defiant. Colonel Kelly reports all. Systems go. Commander Eric Turner had proposed a desperate plan that might be Earth's only hope. While the main fleet engaged the Krelder Armada to create a diversion, a small strike team would infiltrate the planet killer itself. Their mission: reach the central neural hub that coordinated the ship's functions and upload an enhanced version of Dr. White's chaos virus directly into its systems. Leading this suicide mission was Colonel Samantha Kelly, a veteran of a dozen battles against the aliens and perhaps the most experienced Krelder fighter in the human ranks. Her team consisted of 8 humans and 3 Arthosian specialists, all volunteers who understood the slim chances of survival. One last briefing, Sam told her team aboard the Defiant. Once we breach the outer hull, we'll have approximately 40 minutes to reach the central neural hub before their security systems adapt to our presence. The Arthosians will handle electronic countermeasures while we provide combat support. The tall, blue-skinned Arthosian engineer named Klaroth nodded. Our species has studied Krelder technology for decades. If anyone can bypass their security systems, we can. As the Krelder fleet entered the solar system, Earth's defense plan sprang into action. Instead of meeting the enemy in orbit as expected, the human fleet scattered throughout the system. Some hid behind Mars. Others used Jupiter's moons as cover. Still others powered down completely, drifting like dead ships to avoid detection. The Krelder, expecting a desperate last stand, found instead an empty space above Earth. Confused by this development, the enemy fleet slowed its advance. Their rigid tactical protocols had no contingency for an enemy that refused to defend its homeworld. As they hesitated, Earth ships attacked from all directions at once. The battle erupted across the entire solar system, rather than being concentrated in one location as the Krelder had planned. On Earth, billions watched the battle through real-time feeds. President William Carter addressed the planet, preparing humanity for either their finest hour or their last stand. Today we fight not just for our world, but for every world that has suffered under Krelder oppression. If we fall free. Dr. Garcia, now leading Earth's scientific community, initiated the planetary shield system, their last defense if the fleet failed. The experimental technology could deflect some of the solar radiation if the planet killer managed to activate its primary weapon, potentially saving millions of lives. In the chaos of battle, the Defiant approached the planet killer from below, using the massive ship's own blind spots to avoid detection. Sam's team prepared in the airlock, checking their weapons and environmental suits one last time. Remember, Sam told them, once we're inside, radio silence except for emergencies. We move fast, we stay together, and we complete the mission, no matter the cost. The Defiant's stealth systems worked perfectly, allowing them to dock with the planet killer's maintenance hatch without detection. Sam's team moved quickly through the alien corridors, encountering only minimal resistance. At first, the Arthosians worked their technology magic, disabling security systems and redirecting internal sensors. But as they penetrated deeper into the massive vessel, resistance increased. Krelder security forces converged on their position, forcing them to fight their way forward room by room. 2 human soldiers fell in the first major firefight. Another was lost when a security bulkhead closed unexpectedly, cutting him off from the team. Despite these losses, they pressed on, their progress marked by the trail of disabled Krelder warriors behind them. Throughout the ship, alarms blared. As the enemy became fully aware of the infiltration, Sam knew their window of opportunity was closing rapidly. Outside, the space battle reached its peak intensity. Human and allied ships fought with desperate courage, using every trick they had learned over 3 years of war. The chaos tactics continued to work, though with diminishing effectiveness as the Krelder adapted. Ship after ship on both sides winked out of existence, reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Admiral Taylor watched from the command station as the casualty reports mounted. Status of the strike team? Still operational, but encountering heavy resistance, came the reply. They're 3 levels away from the neural hub. And the planet killer? Its weapon systems are powering up. Estimated time to firing capability is 17 minutes. Taylor closed his eyes briefly. Tell all ships to focus fire on the planet killers. Weapon arrays. Buy the strike team more time, whatever it costs. Sam's team finally reached the central section of the ship, but found it heavily defended. In the ensuing firefight, all but Sam and Arthosian engineer Klaroth were killed. They took cover behind alien equipment as energy blasts scorched the walls around them. The neural hub is just through that door, Klaroth said, pointing across. An open area guarded by 6 Krelder warriors. But I need at least 2 minutes at the console to upload the virus. Sam checked her weapon's charge. Then I'll give you those 2 minutes. Without waiting for a response, she activated her suits, emergency shield, and charged into the open. The Krelder, surprised by this seemingly suicidal attack, focused all their fire on her. The shield absorbed the first few hits before failing, but by then Sam had reached close combat range. Her training and experience showed as she engaged multiple opponents simultaneously, using their own weapons against them when possible. Klaroth seized the opportunity and sprinted for the neural hub. As Sam held off the remaining guards, the Arthosian engineer worked frantically to upload Dr. White's chaos algorithm into the ship's systems. It's working, Klaroth called out as the ship's lights flickered. The virus is spreading through their network. Sam took a glancing hit to her shoulder, but managed to disable the last guard. How long until it affects the weapon systems? Unknown. This ship is more complex than any Krelder vessel we've encountered before. Outside, the planet killers' weapon arrays began to glow as they prepared to fire on Earth. The combined fleet threw everything they had at the massive ship, but its shields held firm. On Earth, people huddled in shelters, many believing these were their final moments. Then something unexpected happened. The planet killer's lights flickered, then went out completely. Its weapon arrays powered down mid-charge, and massive arms that extended from its central body began moving in random, uncoordinated patterns. The chaos virus had worked better than anyone had hoped. Not only did it disable the planet killer, but the ship's powerful communication array broadcast this virus to every Krelder vessel in the fleet. Their coordinated attack collapsed into confusion. Ship fired on ship as targeting systems went haywire. Some vessels attempted to retreat, while others continued attacking without purpose or plan. For the first time in their history, the Krelder experienced true chaos. The Battle of Sol, as it would later be known, ended with the surrender of the Krelder fleet. For the first time in their history, the conquerors of the galaxy had been defeated not just in a skirmish, but in a war. Sam Kelly, recovering from her wounds on the lunar medical facility, was asked by a journalist what made humans different from all the other species the Krelder had conquered. Her answer was simple. They conquered the galaxy by being the strongest. We saved it by knowing when to be strong, when to be clever, and when to be unpredictable. That's the human way. In the aftermath, humanity emerged as a galactic power. The liberated worlds formed a new alliance with Earth at its center, not as conquerors, but as liberators. The Krelder Empire, reduced to their homeworld, signed a peace treaty that would last for generations. And the galaxy learned an important lesson. Never underestimate those strange, unpredictable beings from the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star.